I didn't yell, I didn't cry, and I didn't argue. At 4 p.m., just hours before dinner, my husband sent a text that changed everything. I gave your dad's reservation to my parents. My CEO is in town. This table matters more. No discussion. No permission. He'd already called the restaurant and put his name on the booking. Then he added one last line. Your dad would be happier at some cheap pub anyway. That's when something inside me went completely quiet. He thought I'd panic. Thought I'd scramble to fix his mess. Thought I'd accept being pushed aside. Again. Instead, I sent 6 calm words that ended our marriage. And he didn't even see it coming. I had planned this dinner weeks in advance. A quiet celebration for my dad. Nothing fancy. Just meaningful. Then, at 4 in the afternoon, my phone buzzed. No call, no warning. Just a message. He told me he'd taken over the reservation. Invited his parents instead. Because his boss was visiting. Because his career mattered more. He said my family could wait. Said my dad fit in better somewhere cheaper. What he didn't say, but made very clear, was that he'd already acted. Already changed the reservation. Already decided for both of us. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel shocked. It felt like a door closing, heavy, final, irreversible. He believed I'd rush around fixing things for him like always. That I'd apologize to my father. That I'd shrink. So I replied with 6 simple words. My brother owns the restaurant. Seen no reply. He didn't believe me. And that refusal to listen was the last mistake he made as my husband. Before we continue, I want to wish each of you a happy, healthy, and powerful 2026. If these stories resonate with you, please support the channel so we can keep sharing them. And I'd genuinely love to hear from you in the comments. My father, Brian, spent over 40 years working with machines. The kind of work that leaves its mark not on paper, but on your hands. He was a mechanic. The rare kind who could hear an engine for 10 seconds and tell you exactly what was wrong. He never had a resume, never had an online profile. What he had were calloused palms, a small workshop that smelled like oil and peppermint, and a work ethic you couldn't fake. After my mother left, he raised me alone. Double shifts, long nights, quiet sacrifices, textbooks, braces, a future he built piece by piece. He never complained, never asked for praise. He just showed up every single day. Then there was Logan, my husband of 3 years. Logan didn't fix things. He pitched them. He worked in tech sales and loved calling himself a visionary. To him, success wasn't about substance, it was about appearance. His jeans were always pressed. His car was leased, flashy, and parked where everyone could see it. Life, to Logan, was a stage, and every interaction was an audition for his next promotion. The difference between the two men in my life wasn't subtle. It was jarring. When my dad visited, he scrubbed his hands again and again before sitting down, worried about leaving a mark in our perfectly curated living room. He perched on the edge of the sofa, careful not to disturb anything. Logan watched him with a smile that looked polite, but felt distant. Not warmth, tolerance, the kind you reserve for something you believe doesn't belong. He never said it out loud in the beginning, but I felt it. He looked down on my father, on the grease, the blue-collar accent, the quiet dignity of a man who earned everything the hard way. It was in the small things too. Like how my dad would quietly fix a leaking faucet instead of calling a plumber. To Logan, that wasn't practicality. It was a reminder. My father represented everything Logan was terrified of becoming: useful, honest, and invisible, and nothing mattered more to Logan than being seen. Which is why the gilded anchor meant everything to him. It sat on the Boston waterfront, glass, mahogany, and power. It wasn't just a steakhouse. It was a checkpoint. You couldn't reserve a table online. There was a 6-month wait for the public. But the real decision makers, CEOs, politicians, legacy families, they didn't wait. They were expected. Logan talked about the gilded anchor the way some people talk about sacred places. He followed their social media religiously, tried to befriend junior executives just to get close. To him, dining there wasn't about food. It was about proof. Proof that he'd arrived, that he belonged, that he wasn't just another salesman from the suburbs wearing an expensive suit. For my dad's 65th birthday, I wanted to give him something he would never ask for, something he'd never buy for himself. I wanted him to feel honored. I imagined him by the window, watching the harbor, enjoying a meal that cost more than his usual car repairs. So I made it happen. I secured a reservation. Logan never asked how. He just knew I had it. And the moment I told him, 4 people, 7 o'clock, Saturday night, I saw the look in his eyes. He didn't see a birthday dinner. He saw leverage, an opening, a resource, and like so many things connected to me, he decided it was too valuable to waste on my family. We lived in the guest house behind his parents' estate. On the surface, it looked generous. Logan loved telling people we were saving for our forever home, that his parents were helping us get ahead. The truth was quieter. I wasn't a guest. I wasn't even a tenant. I was the one managing expenses, covering costs, making things run smoothly. At first, it was subtle: groceries, utilities, small things that added up. Then came the renovation. 3 months ago, Logan walked in holding a stack of contractor estimates. He dropped them onto the coffee table like he'd won something. "Mom wants to redo the guest house bathroom," he said casually. "Italian tile, heated floors, rainfall, shower. It's going to be amazing." I glanced at the total. $12,000. "That's nice for them," I said, returning to my laptop. "I hope they enjoy it." Logan laughed, not amused. Sharp, empty. "No, we're paying for it," Logan said, then corrected himself. "Actually, you are." I froze. "My bonus doesn't come through until next quarter," he continued casually, "and the contractor needs the deposit now." I stopped typing. "Excuse me," he sighed, slipping into that slow, patronizing tone he used when explaining things he assumed I wouldn't understand. "It's an investment. We live here rent. This raises the property value. It's equity." Then, without missing a beat, "After everything my parents have done for you, welcoming you in, overlooking your background, it's the least you can do." There it was, the pressure point. For most of my life, I'd been carrying something I didn't have a name for, what I now call the invisible chain. If you grow up with one parent, watching every dollar, repairing what others replace, skipping vacations you can't afford, you internalize a quiet belief that you are somehow behind. That stability is something you have to earn. That acceptance comes with a price. Logan and his parents sensed that insecurity immediately. They didn't create it, they recognized it, and they used it. Slowly, they convinced me that being welcomed into their world was a favor, something I needed to repay. I wasn't just a wife. I was a project, a charity case they'd generously taken in. Every bill I paid, every comment I swallowed, every check I wrote, it was all a fee. My admission ticket into a family I'd convinced myself was better than mine. I looked at Logan, then at the estimate, and I felt that familiar weight tighten around my chest. I didn't want to be the ungrateful girl from a broken home. I didn't want to be seen as a burden. I wanted to be worthy. So I wrote the check, $12,000. Money I'd earned the hard way. Managing supply chains, solving problems, working 50-hour weeks while keeping everything else running. "Good," Logan said, taking the check before the ink had fully dried. "Mom will be thrilled." "No, thank you." No acknowledgement. He just walked out. The renovations started the following week. Susan came by every day to supervise. She criticized my cleaning while contractors dismantled the bathroom I had paid for. She treated me like a guest who had overstayed, even as my money paid for the marble beneath her feet. That's when I finally understood something. The chain I thought was protecting me was slowly choking me. I had spent $12,000 on what I believed would buy respect. All it bought me was a heated floor I was barely allowed to stand on. The week of my father's 65th birthday, the tension in the house was impossible to ignore. Logan was restless, pacing, checking his phone, snapping at everything. His CEO was flying in from New York that Saturday, the same night as my dad's dinner. For weeks, Logan had been trying to get into the Gilded Anchor, calling favors, leaning on contacts, refreshing reservation pages until his thumb went numb. Nothing worked. Then Wednesday night, I came home to find him pacing the living room. He stopped when he saw me. His eyes narrowed. "You have a reservation," he said. It wasn't a question. I set my bag down slowly, and that's when I noticed the iPad on the table open to my confirmation email. 7 o'clock, Saturday night, a prime waterfront table at the Gilded Anchor. Logan stepped closer, crowding my space. "How did you get it?" he demanded. "I've been trying for a month. I have a contact," I said evenly. "It's for my dad's birthday." "I already told you." "Cancel it." The room went silent. "Cancel the birthday dinner," he said, then corrected himself. "Or transfer it to me. I need that table, Emma." He started pacing, words spilling faster now. "My CEO expects the best. If I take him somewhere average, I look small. If I walk him into the Gilded Anchor at prime time, I look powerful. I get the promotion. We get the money." "No," I said. "It's my dad's 60th. This matters." Logan laughed sharply. "Be serious. Your dad's a mechanic. He drinks beer from a can. He won't even know what he's eating. He'll be uncomfortable. Then, quietly and cruelly, he'll embarrass me just by being there. He's my father," I said, my voice shaking with a strength I didn't recognize. "And he deserves one night where he isn't treated like he doesn't exist." He is invisible, Logan snapped. That's just how life worked out for him. Don't drag me down with you. Then came the threat. Give me the reservation code, he said, or don't expect me to cover anything around here next month. You want to be independent? Fine. See how far you get without my family. I walked away, locked the bedroom door, and I didn't give him the code. But I underestimated him. The next morning, while I was in the shower, Logan went through my phone. He found the confirmation email, forwarded it to himself, then called the restaurant pretending to be me, and changed the name. I didn't find out until Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock. When that text arrived, the one telling me my father belonged at a cheap pub, Logan thought he'd won, thought he'd stolen the prize of the weekend. What he didn't know was this: he hadn't taken a table. He'd stepped straight into a trap that had been waiting for him for years. Saturday night arrived wrapped in cool Boston mist. I picked up my dad myself. He wore his one good suit, charcoal gray, bought for my mother's funeral 10 years earlier. It pulled a little at the shoulders, but his shoes were polished until they caught the He looked nervous and proud, like a man trying his best to belong in a world that never made room for him. You sure about this, kiddo? He asked as we reached the valet. That place looks expensive. Maybe we just grab burgers. No burgers tonight, I said, squeezing his hand. Tonight, you eat like a king. Inside, the gilded anchor glowed marble floors, gold accents, air heavy with perfume and aged beef. Reservation for Emma, I said clearly. The Motadi checked his screen, frowned, then nodded. Yes, ma'am, but your party has already been seated. Table 4, by the water. I see, I said calmly. Thank you. I led my father into the dining room, and there they were. Logan, his CEO, Susan and Jeffrey, laughing, drinking wine that cost more than my dad earned in a week. Settled comfortably into my table, Logan noticed us first. His smile cracked, then hardened. He stood and blocked our path. What are you doing here? He hissed. You stole my reservation, I said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. I repurposed it, he snapped, glancing nervously toward his boss. Look at your father. He doesn't belong here. He looks like he's here to fix something. My dad's shoulders dipped. His eyes dropped. No, I said firmly. We're not leaving. Logan grabbed my arm. You're making a scene, he whispered. Leave now, or you won't have a place to sleep tonight. And that was the moment everything finally snapped into place. That was the breaking point. I pulled my arm free. I didn't look at Logan. I looked past him, straight toward the kitchen doors. Then I raised my hand. Not a wave, a signal. The double doors swung open. The dining room fell silent. Christopher stepped out. He wasn't wearing a server's uniform. He was dressed in flawless chef's whites, his name stitched cleanly across his chest. He didn't rush. He commanded the room. Every member of staff stopped what they were doing. The Motta D lowered his head slightly. Christopher walked past Logan without so much as a glance. Straight to my father. Happy birthday, Dad, he said, his voice steady, proud, filling the space. He pulled him into a hug, didn't flinch at the worn suit, didn't care about calloused hands. Then, slowly, deliberately, he turned. He looked at Logan, frozen and pale. At the CEO, visibly confused. At Susan and Jeffrey, mid-sip, completely still. I believe, Christopher said calmly, his voice cutting through the silence. You're sitting at my father's table. For a moment, the only sound in the room was silverware clinking somewhere far away. Mr. Sterling, a man known for dismantling careers in boardrooms, looked from Christopher to Logan, an unspoken question. Logan stood abruptly, smoothing his jacket, forcing a brittle smile. Christopher, he laughed too loudly. I didn't know you were working tonight, Mr. Sterling. This is Emma's brother. We go way back. He glanced at me, eyes wide, desperate. Right, Em? This was all a surprise. For your dad. Stop, Christopher said. Not raised, not angry, just final. The authority in his voice shut the room down. He snapped his fingers. A server appeared instantly, placing a silver tray in front of Mr. Sterling. On it, a single sheet of thick cream-colored paper. What's that? Logan asked, his smile collapsing. The bill, Christopher replied calmly. Not for dinner. He didn't break eye contact with Logan. My brother-in-law enjoys playing the role of provider. Christopher continued. He talks about success and status, but for the past 3 years, he's been funding that illusion using my sister's money. Mr. Sterling picked up the page, adjusted his glasses, and began to read. Christopher didn't need to look. Italian marble tile, 4,000, he recited. Heated flooring, 3,000. Custom vanity and fixtures, 2,500. He leaned forward, hands resting on the table. Monthly utility payments, he added evenly, 2,500. Then he finished. $12,000 total, paid entirely by Emma. He paused. Current balance in Logan's account. Seron Susan, gasped. Jeffrey stared into his glass. Logan's face darkened, flushed, unraveling. This wasn't embarrassment. It was collapse. The image he'd built, the successful executive, the superior man, was being dismantled in front of the only person whose approval mattered. He didn't apologize. He erupted. "You set me up," Logan shouted, slamming his hand onto the table. Every conversation in the restaurant stopped. "You planned this. You let me bring my boss just to humiliate me." He spun toward me, finger shaking. "You lied. You said your brother was just a cook. You hid this. You hid his money. I met his eyes.com, still, and for the first time, completely free. You tricked me," Logan snapped. "You made me look stupid." "I didn't hide anything," I said calmly. "You never asked." I met his eyes. "You were too busy mocking my father's work to notice that his son built something extraordinary." Logan spun toward Mr. Sterling, panic bleeding into desperation. "She's lying. She manipulated everything. She let me think. She let you believe you were the provider," Christopher finished evenly. "But we all know who actually paid for the lifestyle you're wearing." Mr. Sterling slowly set the paper down. He looked at Logan, not with anger, with distaste, the kind reserved for something disappointing you wish you'd never stepped on. "Logan," he said quietly, "sit down. You're embarrassing yourself." "But sir," "Sit down." Logan dropped into the chair, chest heaving, eyes darting around the room for an escape that no longer existed. The image was gone. The charm was gone. The illusion had collapsed. Mr. Sterling stood, buttoning his jacket with finality. He didn't look at Logan when he spoke next. "I apologize for the disruption," he said, addressing me and Christopher. Then he turned slightly. "Logan, don't come into the office Monday. You're suspended pending a full audit of your expenses." He paused. "If this is how you treat your own family, I can't imagine how you manage company funds." "But the promotion," Logan whispered. "A promotion is for leadership," Mr. Sterling replied, walking away. "Not entitlement." Susan and Jeffrey sat frozen. They looked at Logan, then at me, waiting. Waiting for me to smooth it over, to pay the bill, to clean up the mess, like always. But the account was closed. I slid my wedding ring off my finger. It wasn't extravagant, just a simple band from his early years. A promise he never kept. I placed it gently on the silver tray right on top of the itemized list. "Emma," Logan croaked, reaching for me. "Please, we can fix this." I was under pressure. "You weren't under pressure," I said quietly. "You were under the illusion that I existed to support your life, not share it." I looked at him, truly looked, and felt nothing. No anger, no grief, just clarity. "The renovations," I said, gesturing to the paper. "The tile, the floors, the vanity. Consider them my parting gift. That $12,000, that's your severance. Because I'm taking the only asset that ever mattered." I turned to my father. "Ready to eat, Dad?" He straightened, smiled wide. "Starving." We didn't eat in the main dining room. Christopher led us past the kitchen, into his private chef's table in the back. It was warm. It smelled like rosemary and garlic. It was loud, imperfect, and alive. The steaks melted. The laughter flowed. My dad told stories from his shop, and for the first time in years, no one dismissed him. As I looked at my father and my brother, I thought of Logan, alone in that cold, expensive room. There is a kind of poverty that has nothing to do with money. It's the belief that worth can be purchased. Logan wore a $1,000 suit, but inside, he was empty. My father wore a discount suit, and he was the richest man I knew. I spent years trying to earn a seat at a table where I was never welcome. I didn't realize until tonight I'd been building my own table all along. And the view from here, perfect. If you've ever had to walk away from someone who treated you like an option while demanding you treat them like a priority, share this.